Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's start our video with a story in which our OP's dummy workmate didn't get a nice tip just because he was lazy. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. It's your table. So I used to work at an upscale restaurant as a server. One day I was finishing up during a lunch shift. My boss told me I was done for the day and to do my closing duty so I could leave. Now, normally when a server is done, another server will step in and take over the section. Sometimes it's a fresh server coming in for the next shift. Sometimes it's just another server working the same shift. So any tables sat in my section after being told to go home are now the responsibility of the server who's taking over my section. But that only happens after a manager tells you that you're done for the day, or as it's called in the biz, being cut. Anyways, as I walk out from the kitchen, I see a huge party of 20 being sat in my area just as my manager is telling me to leave. The tables the party are using are split between my section and another server who we'll call Jerry. I was really hoping Jerry would just take them since he was supposed to take over my section once I left, but I had a feeling it wouldn't go over well because Jerry was known to be pretty lazy and almost scared of working. He was always making excuses and disappearing in the middle of the shift. We used to work together as expos, the guy who puts the food on trays and does quality assurance before it goes out. And if a huge order came out, Jerry would literally walk away and start cleaning computer screens, checking on glasses, which wasn't even our job, or doing anything else just to get out of working hard. As a server, he would literally not go up to tables, hoping someone else would take the table so he didn't have to. He was just a lazy butt. Before I can even ask Jerry if he'll take the table so I can leave, he shouts that he's slammed and there's no way he can take a table of 20 at the moment, but that in maybe 20 or even 30 minutes he can come to help out. I was trying to get out of this pretty badly, so I told him I was cut and the party was his duty now. My manager steps in and tells me that the huge party is my table and that they'd just been sat seconds before I was cut. Jerry then says, "It's your table," since they're mostly in my section. "Are you crapping me?" I shouted. I knew this party was going to take a long time to get through, but rules were rules and the party was technically mine. Jerry then says that he'll come by in 20 or 30 minutes or so to help out and we'll split the tip, he says, which is usually how it goes. I get a drink order and it's mostly alcoholic stuff. I get the drinks down on the table, and then right after my boss pulls me aside, he hands me a long A list of food items and tells me my party is ordered ahead of time and that all I need to do is input the items. So I do exactly that, and not too much later, all their food is on the table. Being that we have food runners, I didn't even need to deliver it. All I really had to do was get them refills on all their margaritas and martinis and ask what else they needed. They ended up being a pretty easy table. After the food hits the table, I spot Jerry filling up their waters, bringing extra napkins, and just doing other very simple stuff. This was literally all he was doing, and he spent maybe 3 minutes doing stuff for the table. Then I remembered that Jerry wanted to split tips, but because I got the drink order and set them down, the table was mine. Because as our bosses had told us for years, once you set drinks down on the table is yours. So after maybe 3 hours, the group leaves. I pick up the tab to see how much tip they left, a generous $800 tip. All I did was take a drink order, input about 30 entree items, and kept the drinks coming, and I made more in 3 hours than I normally make in a weekend. So I'm in the kitchen getting signed out by my boss when Jerry comes up to ask how much they left us. I tell him how much they left me, and he then says, "Well, we're going to split it, right?" "You wanted to split it after all, didn't you?" I look him dead in the face and tell him, "You told me it was my table." My boss then backs me up and says that because I had drinks down on the table before Jerry ever came over, that table was technically mine. Jerry then goes on about how he refreshed waters and brought napkins over. I tell him thank you for the help and that I'm not splitting the tip. Jerry storms off looking as if he's going to cry. And our second story. Won't move your rubbish bin from my house and be rude to me all the time? Good luck getting to work. I live in a rural area on an unadopted road that's just wide enough for cars to park up against the wall and their cars to squeeze past. My next-door neighbor, let's call her Susan, has what I affectionately call resting bee face. Always shouting, screaming at her kids, never even acknowledges my existence when I politely say good morning. She's an ignorant and self-entitled thundersea. And that's an understatement. She likes to keep her often overflowing rubbish bin in front of my house. Since I bought my house a few months ago, I've asked her politely a few times to move it outside her own house. That bin has been there long before you moved in, and I can't get my ridiculously large and obnoxious four-wheel drive past if I put my bin outside my own house. I've tried moving it and put my flower pots in the bin spot, and she just moves it back and kicks my pots out of the way later on. She also bangs loudly on my door at 6 a.m. to move my car a few inches so she doesn't have to make a 63-point maneuver to get out, all while never saying please or thank you. I have a doorbell, by the way. Cut to last week, and I have kitchen fitters over. Her typical parking spot is empty all day, so I move back to allow the fitters to park their van in my spot. 4 p.m. comes around and I hear her repeatedly beep her car horn like I'm an effing valet service. I ignore her because I'm busy doing other things. She banged on the door, set my dogs off barking, and proceeds to demand that I move your car now because I need to get in. I told her that if she parks at the end of the road, a mere 20 meters away, I'll let her know when the fitters are leaving and I'll move my car. That wasn't good enough for RBF, and she proceeds to shout at me that I'd better move my car or else there'll be trouble. 2 minutes later, and her husband presses my doorbell. I told him the same thing, that it's an unadopted road and she has no claim to that section of road. What does RBF do next? She reverses down the road, blocking everyone so that I can't get into my car to move it. At 5:30, when the fitter leaves, I knock on the door and ask her to move her car so I can pull forward and give her her precious space back. She then makes me wait 40 minutes and then honks her horn to summon the valet, me, to move his car. I then notice that she's broken my wing mirror. I confront her about it and her response is, "Prove it." I photograph my car and her wing mirror, which has her paint on it for the insurers. I then go out to pick my wife up from work. I arrive home minus one wing mirror and reverse my car so close that it's 3 inches away from her bumper. I also pull my car wide so that even if she could back up to make room, she wouldn't get past without hitting me. I then go in and pour myself the biggest gin and tonic you've ever seen. 8 p.m. comes around, bang, bang, bang. RBF, move your effing car right now. I can't get out and I need to get to work. Me, I've been drinking. I'm not breaking the law by drunk driving. RBF, give me the keys and I'll move it. Me, sorry, you're not insured to drive my car. And I shut the door in her face. She proceeds to bang on the door until I open it with my phone recording everything for my later amusement. Me, if you bang on my door again, I'm gonna call the police. You're not gonna force me to break the law, and you're not gonna break the terms of my insurance by driving my car without insurance. She started crying and screaming that she works 20 minutes away and that I'm effing this and effing that, and that I better move my effing car. At which point the neighbors have opened their door to watch the drama. I get it all on camera, just in case I have to call the police. She leaves in floods of tears and I hear her calling for a taxi. The following morning she presses my doorbell and politely asks if I'll move my car forward. No problem, Susan. And I make her wait 40 minutes. She hasn't spoken a word to me since, and after I moved her bin out over to her own house, she hasn't moved it back. And our last story. Trying to buy a house from the most entitled couple I've ever met. Years ago, we decided to move closer to my parents. The housing choices were slim, but we found a dilapidated house close by. It looked like it needed lots of work and seemed overpriced for the area, say $200K. We organized a viewing to decide on it and brought my very practical dad with us for a second opinion. The viewing was conducted by the owners, and from the very beginning, they were off. They'd never sold a house before, and we were the first people to view it. And they actually said to us during the viewing they were doing us a favor for offering us their hoarder's paradise house at such a great price. We told them we wanted to move closer to my parents, and I think they assumed we were desperate. We got home, had a think, and the next day offered the agent a price below the asking price, which we believed to be suitable for its condition. Hours later, the agent calls back and says that the owners are going to prey on it for a week, then give us an answer. FYI, this time span is unheard of in my country. An answer is usually given in a day. A week later, they decline our offer. We offered the agent another $2,000. The agent calls back and apologetically tells us the sellers refuse to give us an answer yet because A, they haven't even started looking for a house yet, and B, the owners believe they can sell it for more than their asking price now. So they'll get back to us when they were ready, and we'd have to wait. We rescinded our offer. A month later, we find a house in the same area with a lot less work needed and only $180,000. Our offer through the same agent was accepted, and we move in 4 months later. During this time, the agent calls us and says the entitled sellers have found a house now and would like to offer us their house at the original asking price. We declined. I was interested in the progress of the old house. The sale sign did not move, so I chatted to the agent. He told me we were the only offer in 6 months, and these people had been an absolute nightmare from the start. They expected the agent to pay for cleaners, ready for the viewings, and wouldn't take any advice to help with the sale. Remember Hoarder's house? He also said that they'd recently put a deposit on a house, against his advice, before selling theirs, so now the old house is going up for auction because they needed the cash. I instantly called my dad. He was looking for a property for my sister and had already seen the house. He was interested. So off we popped to the auction house on the day and bid for it. The owners were in the room but hadn't noticed us. When the hammer went down, Dad owned the house for $110,000. He signed off the sale and paid the deposit just as the previous owners came to the office. Their faces were a picture. I gave them a crap-eating grin and left. Greediness usually backfires. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.